Hello and welcome to the finals here at Grand Prix Utrecht. We've bowled down 677 teams down to 2. Both are from Sweden. Both are filled with fantastic players, and they're going to duke it out in a best of 3 rounds here. Not only games, not only matches, best of 3 rounds here. So a great final, and to top off great Gatecrash Limited season.
Yeah, we might be seeing up to 9 matches of Gatecrash Limited to decide this Grand Prix. 670 teams. Now it's only 2 Swedish ones remaining.
Yeah, and let's just go to the right onto the table, and I'll introduce the teams slinging out in this finals. There, at the back, you can see Joel Larsson on the left, Mikael Magnusson in the middle, and Elias Watsfeldt on the right. 2 superstars and their friend, Joel Larsson, Pro Tour Gatecrash finalist, Elias Watsfeldt, Grand Prix Lisbon runner-up, and playing together with their friend Mikael Magnuson proved to be successful as they got to the finals after a very convincing 10-0 performance in day 1. So now day 2, they picked up a few losses. Their only 2 losses coming from their opponents. On the other side, a Swedish team of Jonathan Bergström, Fredrik Carlson, and Tomas Wesling. And we'll get right down to the match. It's Tomas Wesling on the left against Joel Larsson on the right. Gruel on Simic, slugging it out.
Yeah, we saw Joel Larsson draft. He has a curve that starts at 2 and ends at 4. Basically, a couple of 5 drops thrown in. And what he would have loved to see was more 1 drops, which he didn't get, but he's happy that his curve at least doesn't go up further. You don't want too many 5 and 6 drops in this format. I think we've seen that over and over again.
And Tomas Wesling, with quite a slow draw himself, does speed it up considerably by playing the Hellraiser Goblin, swinging in for 2 damage and putting the pressure on Joel.
Who doesn't have a Shamble Shark, which he was representing one of the premier 2 drops for Simic. Hellraiser Goblin, though, could provide quite troublesome, given that the Croconora and the Simic creatures in general are going to evolve quite heavily.
Yeah, if Joel Larsson could actually add to his board and grow his Croconora, then the ability of Hellraiser Goblin, which forces all of Thomas's creatures to attack, actually might prove to cost him.
Yeah. I like Hellraiser Goblin quite a bit, but it's also easy to just be forced to suicide your creatures in ways that you wouldn't have imagined. So there's just a lot of things going on. Imagine a Scourgewalker coming down and Joel almost immediately being forced to block it with Croconora so as not to fall behind too much. Imagine some battalion creatures just triggering immediately. And we actually see, I think, a Legion Loyalist.
Yeah, he does play the Legion Loyalist and swings it with 2 of his creatures. So more than likely we're going to see a Slaughterhorn or a Scapline Charger activation here. It goes for the blocking of the Legion Loyalist. And here's the Charger, blood rushing in, +2/+4 for the Legion Loyalist. Takes down the Croconora and puts in 2 damage on Joel Larsson here. So you see Mikael Magnusson's hand there, reaching for dice. Another Croconora from Joel Larsson and no 4th land either. But still a pretty decent blocker, and Tomas Wesling will have to have another trick to go along with the Slaughterhorn from the Scapline Charger from last turn. So it might just be the Slaughterhorn.
If Westling drops another creature, he's going to have Battalion, and Legion Loyalist is going to give his creatures First Strike and Trample. They also won't be able to be blocked by creature tokens, but that isn't sufficient to get past Croconora. You need something else for that.
Yeah. So Legion Loyalist swings in, the Slaughterhorn +3/+2, and also by giving Trample, he now actually tramples over with the Loyalist, also doing 4 additional damage. So Joel Larsson drops down to 11 life, and still no land. Does have a Simic Flux Mage, but if Tomas Wesling can keep up the pressure, even the 3rd Croconora from Joel Larsson might not be able to stop the beats.
And Joel Larsson has to pray that there isn't another large creature waiting for Wesling in his Gruel deck, because that would just be too much to handle.
He slumped in his chair a little bit there, taken aback by 3 Croconoras there. It did seem like he drew a Bomber Core, and he still also has a Mugging, so he actually can put on quite a lot of pressure. but just doesn't seem that he has a way of permanently dealing with the Croconora. So he has to and carefully ponder his blocks, attacks.
Yeah, but on the other hand, Hellraiser Goblin is forcing all of his creatures to attack, so it's really just about which creature to play before combat or not. It's certainly possible to just go all in and lose the Legion Loyalist at this stage, given that Joel is down to 11 and not looking to stabilize very, very quickly. A green creature for Wesling would also do the job, pumping up the Legion Loyalist up to a 2/2.
But he does not have a green creature. It seems he does seem to have a mugging and a bomber core. So he might actually play a bomber core, which has haste. Doesn't play the mugging before combat. He could actually play it targeting Croconaur and finishing it off with a bomber core. So now he attacks with everything. 2 battalion triggers, a block on the Legion Loyalist. Yeah. And 5 damage gets through, so Joe Larson goes down to 5 because he also took a damage from the Bomber Core. So now, if he manages to draw a land and land a creature to evolve his Croconaur, he could be in very good shape.
Yeah, interesting decision by Westing not to use the mugging when he could have just gotten rid of Croconaur immediately.
He does it after combat. Gets rid of the Croconaur, so still now Joe Larson's still in rough shape. The 3 creatures of Tomas Westling against the empty board of Joe Larson.
Oh yeah, certainly, and there isn't much that Joel can do right now. He is holding a Gridlock, which is great against a Hellraiser Goblin, which we both saw during the draft. But when you have no creatures on the board, that's not what you want to be doing because you wouldn't really get anywhere.
Yeah, so if Tomas Westling draws a haste creature here, he could decide it for himself. Well, all creatures have haste, so anything is good here. Ivy Lane Denizen and Joe Larson packs it up. The additional counter and the additional 2/3 creature on the board, proving too much for Joe Larson to handle. Thomas Westling up a game after Joel stumbled a bit on his mana.
Yeah, and Hellraiser Goblin demonstrating its power.
And going to this seat C, where we have Elias Watsfeldt against Jonathan Bergstrom. Interesting mirror match between 2 Esper decks. I saw both players building, and the decks are a little bit different. Elias Watsfeldt deck being more of a Dimir deck with a white splash, and Jonathan Bergstrom deck more of a Orzhov deck with the blue splash. We've already seen a fair few number of removal spells here from Jonathan Bergstrom. Grizzly Spectacle, Executioner Swing, Watsfeldt on 12, Bergstrom on 19. So Watsfeldt still took quite a bit of damage in the early turns, it seems.
Trying to stabilize isn't easy when you have 1,000 lashes on your Sapphire Drake. So while Bergstrom is looking for that 3rd creature to potentially trigger Battalion and get in for more damage, the clock is ticking for Watsfeldt, so he's looking to get his more expensive, more powerful cards online. And I do know that he has a couple of Primordials in his deck.
Yeah, that sounds like a good number to have, especially when you're reaching 7 mana. So Dinrova Horror will bounce a guy.
Yeah, so Bergstrom with quite a powerful follow-up. It is a blue creature to trigger the Denizen, but that isn't highly relevant currently. Still trying to decide what to bounce here because, to be honest, the permanents on Watsfeld's side of the board, not the most impressive.
No, he could bounce the Orzo Key Rune as well. Yeah, that he does, so that gets balanced. And the land gets discarded immediately. Also, a mill of 2 cards, a Leyline Phantom, and I think that's a Balustrade Spy. So, yeah, now Elias Watsfeldt with an Orzo Keyrune in his hand and some other mystery cards which we cannot see at this moment. But Jonathan Bergstrom goes on the offensive, swinging with the Daring Skyjack and the Stage of Denizen.
Yeah, which gets blocked, but the Skyjack gets through here.
Yeah.
The Denizens could prove quite important in this matchup, as long as Watsfeldt is able to stem the bleeding.
Yeah, Elias Watsfeldt drops down to 8 from the 1,000 lashes. And now we will see the Orzo Kieran being played, and on the land being played, there's only 1 card left in Elias Watsfeldt's hand, and that's another land. So it does seem like he's quite flawed with his lands. But a Primordial could turn it around, but we'll see what Jonathan Bergstrom has to say about that with now a sizable board presence.
And the time is really running out for Elias. He would have loved to evolve that Cloudfin Raptor so as to block the Daring Skyjack. And of course, a large Primordial or something similar would have been great to put in front of the Dinrova Horror. Now, the way things are looking, he's just facing an attack with all of his opponent's creatures. Even though he's threatening to double block, Bergström wouldn't really care about his Sage Row Denizen.
Yeah, that's approach from Jonathan Bergstrom, shrinking the Sage Row Denizen down to a 0-1 because there are two creatures again. Oh, and a Dimir Charm, destroying the key rune before blockers.
Which doesn't make Death's approach more lethal than it already is.
Yeah.
But still, that's just an absolute blowout with one of the control decks having so much more play in this game than the other.
Definitely a lot of removal that Elias Watsfeldt has to contend here with. This attack will drop him down to 6 after chumping the 2 bigger creatures, down to 5 in his upkeep because of the 1000 lashes. And the blue Primordial would not be a bad right now. It would be able to allow flashback quite a lot of cards, but nope. Yeah, Elias Watsfeldt down again. Jonathan Bergstrom, the relatively unknown Swedes are looking to upset the favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go quickly over to table B here, where we have Mikael Magnusson playing against Fredrik Carlsson, which will also be a very interesting matchup. Mikael Magnusson is in Boros. Yeah, we have him on the right. Yeah, we see an assembled Legion with
That's
4
quite
counters.
the Legion.
It is quite the Legion of tokens. With only 4 counters, but there's already 10 tokens into play. It's exactly the number you would expect.
And with the Court Street Denizen that we see there on Magnusson's side of the board, it's not only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 creatures each turn. You also get to tap your opponent's team to add insult to injury.
That's pretty nice, yeah. And that gets ended in short order. Mikael Magnusson, the only one of his team to win his first game. So definitely the less experienced players proving to be very key for the seasoned pros on the pro team of with Joe Larson and Elias Watsfeldt. Yeah, Mikael Magnusson does seem to have a very good Boros deck, it seems. So
yes, it looks
he might prove to be the key here actually.
Keep in mind that it doesn't really matter if the teams win 2-1 or 3-0 because we aren't counting individual matches and summing them up, but it's just who wins round 1, then who wins round 2, and if it's a tie, then we are going to go into a third round.
Yeah. Now back to table A, we have Tomas Wesling on the left against Joel Larson. Joel off to a better start here with a 2-drop in Frilled Oculus and a Millennial Gargoyle added to the board. He's happy attacking here. Pumping up the Oculus down up to 3-5.
That could mean that he's going to play the Pit Fight in his hand, opting not to drop the Nimbus Swimmer that he could otherwise have played as a 3-3 flyer. Wanted to get some of that extra value that the Denizen provides off the table.
Yeah, definitely. Denizen could prove to get out of hand if Tomas Westling was to add 2 creatures to the board. I also think he wants to put him on the back foot. We've seen the Blood Rush shenanigans in the first game, so he doesn't want Tomas Westling to start attacking.
It's also something where Westling is just put into a more awkward spot, having him make the tougher decision, so to speak. It's easy when you can just drop your hand, put counters on everything, attack, and then still have a Blood Rush creature. But when you're actually behind and looking at a hand of Madcap Skills, maybe Hellraiser Goblin, it's much more difficult to envision how to actually play this game.
Yeah, no, we see the Hellraiser Goblin and Madcap Skills in his hand. Actually, he might be just going, oh, you killed my guy, I'm going to go on the offensive anyway.
And then Larson, on the other hand, it's going to be a very back and forth battle. We can already see that because a Frilled Oculus is made to stop these assaults, basically. And then again, Wrestling might have the option to one-up him with Madcap Skills, maybe Blood Rush. So really a back and forth game that could develop here, with Wrestling still not sure how to proceed.
Yeah, he does also have Zerta Swine in his hand, so maybe if he could Hellraiser Goblin and Madcap Skills this turn, attacking for a 7, followed up with a hasted Zerta Swine, that could be devastating.
And we see how especially the cards that also have Agda's Blood Rush combo tricks make the gameplay so interesting and complex, because Do you use it as a 5-mana damage spell? Do you use it as a combat trick? Do you use it as a creature that might have haste thanks to some other creature? And that's what Westling is not only debating but also discussing with his teammates. And you don't want to give too much away because you don't want a player, especially a player like Joel Larson, to know what kind of damage capabilities your hand has.
Yeah. So, after consulting with his teammates, Tomas Westling, asking how many cards do you have? Joel Larson being very animated and telling him I have 2 cards in my hand. Here's the Hellraiser Goblin. Skills on the Skinbrand Goblin. Also not an automatic decision which creature to put it on. Interesting choice. Going for the one with lower toughness.
Certainly influenced by the fact that he has a Wasteland Viper, which would put the Hellraiser Goblin out of range of Frilled Oculus, for example. But given that Madcap Skills forces 2 creatures to block anyway, it's just more about being able to like if 2 creatures block, then your Madcap Skilled creature is going to die pretty much anyway.
Yep, Nimbus Swimmer now being played for Joel Larson. A 4/4 flyer, no mana up now because of that, so Frilled Oculus will not get activated, which does give Tomas Westling a window of opportunity, so to speak, because he also does have a green source now. Can play Deserter Swine with Wasteland Viper backup.
So he actually did draw a forest. That's huge because otherwise he was constrained on just using one of his green spells this turn. And drawing a forest here means that this attack could be a lot more brutal than Joel thinks. Probably feeling quite confident on 13 to 13.
He also does seem to have a mugging in his hands. Tomas Westling drawing very well here.
Yeah, and that Hellraiser Goblin, when played right, actually posing such an enormous threat to the board. And
it allows for turns like this, where I'll just play my 5-drop. With a green up representing Wasteland Viper or Slaughterhorn or Burst of Strength, any number of these tricks, and that could provide to be a problem for Joel Larson, who is still on 13 life, but facing 12 damage.
The problem is if you put Westling on Slaughterhorn here, then you can't let the 10 damage from the 2 5 power creatures get through, which means that you either have to block Hellraiser Goblin and Zerta Swine, or you double block Skinbrand Goblin, but that's kind of awful when there is something like a Slaughterhorn lurking in Westling's hand.
Yeah, and he would definitely take that trade.
Yes, and that's, we know that it's probably not Slaughterhorn, but something like Wasteland Viper, but Joel doesn't know that. He could just say, I can't beat the Blood Rush card, so I'll play like you don't have it, which is certainly reasonable. If you have a card that is going to kill you or put you in an especially awkward spot, then you can just stop worrying about it and try to win the games where your opponent doesn't have the particular card. But what Joel is actually trying to do here is to figure out how is he going to deal 13 to Westling, because that's how he wants to win the game.
Yeah, so Hellraiser Goblin is being blocked by the Wasteland, by the Wasteland Viper Hellraiser Goblin. That means that these 2 creatures trade, but Joel Larson takes 10 damage, falls down to 3. Will have to add a creature to his board, or else he's at a risk of not doing anything here. Did he draw a trick here?
It was very fast to pass the turn. I believe he drew a spell, but can't have been a very good one.
Yeah, mugging on the Millennium Gargoyle, and attack, and Tomas Westling, Shamble Shrug, shows the Shamble Shrug. Yeah, it takes match 1 here of round 1 of the finals of Grand Prix Utrecht. So Tomas Westling takes 1 for the team, and now Jonathan Bergstrom with 1 game up. Here we see Jonathan Bergstrom on the left against Elias Watsfeldt on the right. Horror of the Dim played by Elias Watsfeldt. Not the best creature in the world, but can do a good job, especially against the removal heavy deck of Jonathan Bergstrom.
Yeah, we might actually see Elias keep up that blue mana to make sure that he has a 3/4 hexproof creature, which can be absolutely crucial in a control mirror.
Definitely, because we see Jonathan Bergstrom has no creatures to work with himself, and if he wants to put up something in the way, it has to have 4 toughness, so that might be a problem. Yeah, as we see, full grip of cards, no other tricks yet, so what will Elias Watsfeldt do here? Yeah, he animates the key rune, Swings for 4. Yeah, Jonathan Bergström takes it.
That might actually be the hexproof proving to be key here. And of course, Elias isn't going to tap out of blue. He doesn't want to give Bergstrom an opening to get rid of Horror of the Dim. He's also quite safe from Devour Flash at this point. So only a really good blocker would do it for Bergstrom.
Yeah, Basilica Guards could do a lot. It does seem like he has 1,000 lashes. Opts to go for Simic Flux Mage, so not the most impressive creature here. We see Jonathan Bergstrom deck does have a lot of very good removal spells, but we see his creatures already lacking.
Yeah, that should, in theory, favor Elias, who is down a game though. So he is really the one that is fighting for the upside here.
Yeah, drops to Jonathan Bergstrom down to 8 with that attack. And passes the turn also with plenty of cards in his hand, so actually proving the Esper control mirror match, so to speak. I thought this was limited.
And they are playing a very control-ish game here, which is reminiscent of constructed matchups where a single hexproof creature can just dominate the game, and even though the control deck is doing all it can, drawing cards, playing removal spells, that one thread that you have carries home the victory. And I think that might be a beautiful example of that.
Yeah, Horror of the Dim really working overtime. That's approach took care of the Gutter Skulk, which Elias surely doesn't mind. He has to be very about the Devour Flesh here. Does not get blown out. Swings in for 4. Yeah. But the Keyroon gets blocked by the Simic Flux Mage, which means that the Bergstrom is down to 5. Elias Watsfeldt up to 24. And now, what does Jonathan Bergstrom have to deal with that Horror of the Dim? Otherwise, a card which is played very little in Gatecrash Limited, proving to be so good in this game.
We also see a Psychic Strike in Watsfeldt's hand, so not only does he have the hexproof on Horror of the Dim, he's also holding a counterspell, so he's looking to close out this match, going to 1-1, and I think he probably also heavily boarded to win this control matchup.
It does seem that way. That the chump block from Jonathan Bergstrom, who's only on 2 life. I mean, the Horror of the Dim just needs 1 more attack. With Psychic Strike back up, yeah, Jonathan Bergstrom, no fight in the face of Horror of the Dim. 3-4 hexproof, proving the recipe for success in this matchup.
And a beautiful example of how you don't always have to be proactive to win a game, as long as your opponent isn't able to pull off his game.
Yeah, quick look over at the match between Mikael Magnusson against Fredrik Carlson in the middle there. Boris against Orzhov, so Boris for Magnusson, Orzhov for Carlson. Voig Halberdiers, Milan Gargoyle, already a Coach Street Denizen in the graveyard, which does seem to have traded with a Daring Skyak from Fredrik Carlson, who does have 3 really nice creatures on the board already.
A great curve. He's stuck on 3 lands, but he does have played, well, he has played only terrific Orzhov cards. Skyjack Linger, Daring Skyjack being good also in Burrows, but Sending of Tides, Kingpin's Pet, and Viscount Guild Mage, all really powerful. The Guild Mage more of a late game card, but the Exort is already going to work on Magnusson's life total.
Yeah, it's really hard to actually race an Orzhov player in such a situation, just because there's 3 creatures in play, and if you try to race it, every additional spell being cast just swings the life totals by a lot.
Which is why that the missing 4th land is very important for how this game is shaping up. It's not only about not being able to cast your spells, but not being able to extort to the fullest extent, maybe even missing a drop next turn.
Yep, so after the aerial maneuver, a pit fight on the Kingpin's Pet, so that combat turned into Mikael Magnusson's favor really quickly. He also has a Skynite Legionnaire in his hand, which he can use to punish Fredrik Carlson really quickly if he doesn't draw any more lands. Yeah, there's a swamp, so 4 mana now.
Magnusson making great use of the first strike on aerial maneuver to make sure that he could also pit fight.
Wow, Purge the Profane for the last 2 cards, including the Legionnaire and a Martial Glory. That's one of the best Purge the Profanes I've seen.
Yeah, not a card we see all that often, and one would expect it not to be too great against an aggressive Boros deck, but when you know that your opponent has assembled the Legion and maybe some other late game bombs, then it becomes quite respectable to run it.
Yeah, so Mikael Magnusson now with no cards in his hand cannot trigger the first strike on the Void Halberdiers unless he draws a creature with haste, just because he just lost the Skynet Legionnaire. Fredrik Carlsson must be really happy about himself, but he has to make sure that he doesn't fall too much behind.
Yeah. It's we didn't see this game unfold, but the question is if Magnuson would have been able to hold back one of the planes he played. I'm not sure if he needed 5 lands in play at the same time, so could have played around that approach to Profane a little bit, maybe not really expecting it from his opponent.
Yeah, so Millennium Gargoyle gets in for 2, dropping Fredrik Carlson down to 14. And will we see a Debtor's Pulpit here?
No.
Yep, there it is.
Carlson certainly has the time to go for it. There isn't any immediate danger. The card he has to worry about the most is Assemble the Legion at this stage, and that is a bad thing if Magnuson actually draws it, but it's a good thing because it means that most of the other threats in Magnuson's deck are basically dealt with.
Yep, so that Debtor's Pulpit will hold back the game. Zorichi Tiger threatening to take the game by the scruff of their neck just because it's the life gain every turn. Yeah, taps down the Millennium Gargoyle here. Passes the turn, Mikael Magnusson with no follow-up. Fredrik Carlson obviously still down a game, so this match is not decided, but he has to, if he wants to take the match for him and to win the whole round. Yeah, here's a Prophetic Prism. Yeah, that resolves. No replying from Mikael Magnusson. The players are having fun in the finals here because they know each other. It's a bit of a regional rivalry because the players on the left are from Malmo, the players on the right are from Gothenburg. So, Basilica Guards from Carlson here, further threatening to gum up the board.
Yeah. Magnusson does find land number 6 and is able to play an Urbis Protector that comes with a 4/4 Angel token. I think we should have something that looks a bit nicer even.
Ah, there it is. So a nice 4/4 Angel token there. Yeah, Fredrik Carlson firmly on the defensive here, but actually can tap down the 4/4 flyer with the Debtor's Pulpit and gain the 2 life that he lost, that he's losing to the Millennium Gargoyle with the Zarichi Tiger.
Yeah,
While also extorting.
So the game is actually pretty much stable, but Carlson is going to draw about 1 spell every 2 turns from this stage on. So looking to extort Magnusson out of the game slowly while making sure that his life total is out of reach of the Boros deck.
Yeah, so we'll see what Mikael Magnusson can do with that situation. He does have 6 lands, so should be able to play most of the cards in his deck, although he is only on 1 red mana. And he has quite a few red spells in his deck, so we'll see how it goes for him. Fredrik Carlson deep in thought.
We have to remember that Larson lost his match very quickly, so one more match win for the left side is going to end this round. So
yeah, Mikael Magnusson trying to get Fredrik Carlson to pick up the pace, surely in a friendly manner. Does draw a mountain.
He's holding a mugging that he hasn't really been able to use. If he sees a Kingpin's Pet, I'm sure that it's going to take very little time for him to play it. Right now, just content with the situation. It's not great losing life in these exchanges. On the other hand, his Orzhov opponent hasn't really shown how to win here. We saw something interesting with Carlson tapping the Gargoyle rather than the Angel.
Yeah, and then Mikael Magnusson actually declining to attack because of that. So he smelled something fishy there. Now we saw the instant spin homing lightning, so the second red proving very important for Mikael Magnusson. Got rid of the Zarichi Tiger, which was proving to be very annoying for him. But now, 6 mana, Urbis Protector for Fredrik Carlson there. Not extorting, preferring to leave up the land for the Debtor's Pulpit activation. So, yeah, here's the Angels. So, face up of the Angels. Mistaps, by mistake, shows points to the Urbis Protector instead of the Angel token itself. Yeah, the players are probably having a good joke about this. And now the Millennium Gargoyle will get in for 2 damage, it seems. I think it's a relaxed atmosphere. They're teasing each other a little bit here. So
Carlson just wondering what that 2-2, that bold 2-2 is trying to achieve. We know it's a mugging. They would trade unfavorably, but that 4-4 Angel is otherwise going to take huge chunks out of Magnusson's life total, so he has to try to make his mugging useful there. Does have another spell too.
Yep, we're gonna go to match number C after that Guardian Gateless, a very good blocker in the face of the Angel token there. So
yeah, huge card.
Yeah, we're going to Bergstrom against Watsfeldt. Their Esper mirror match continuing, so both on white, blue, black decks. Wow! Elias Watsfeldt with a Gift of the Orzhova on his Alms Beast. Now that's a beating.
That's crazy. So, Alms Beast meaning that creatures blocking it are going to have lifelink, but Gift of Orzhova granting lifelink to Alms Beast itself. This isn't a game about life totals in the first sense, but a 7/7 flying lifelink creature is nothing to scoff at.
Yeah, definitely. We saw there a lot of removal in Jonathan Bergstrom's deck, so I'm actually surprised that Elias went for such a bold move. Yeah, so 27-14 on the life totals here, it seems. So yeah, Watsfeldt ahead, and now again with a huge Alms Beast.
We saw him keep up mana for a Psychic Strike again. Don't know if he has it in hand, but that could explain why he's feeling so safe in keeping Gift of Orzhova in for the deciding game and also putting it on his best creature. And I think I saw that Psychic Strike, so Elias must feel pretty good about his chances here.
Yeah, just starts off with a Cloudfin Raptor here. And he replies, we see Jonathan Bergstrom actually a little bit constrained on the mana. If there's one thing true of mirror matches, not having enough lands could prove to be a big problem, with Elias Watsfeldt already on 6 lands here.
And that's because this is still a control mirror, so even though there's a large creature beating down, you still have to be aware that there's a late game to be won.
Yeah, Orzo Charm now trying to get rid of the Alms Beast here. It would mean that Jonathan Bergstrom would lose 7 life. But yeah, Elias Watsfeldt has to think if he wants to let that resolve. He probably will go for the Psychic Strike here.
It's interesting, Elias opting not to attack in order to play around either Smite or Executioner Swing. Although he must have, I think he would have liked for Bergstrom to block with his Balustrade Spy, then try the Executioner Swing and get it countered.
Yeah, so the Orzo attack is countered, mills a Grizzly Spectre and a land, both things that Jonathan Bergstrom would have loved there, but that Gift of Orzhova on the Alms Beast making it really huge. Not attacking this turn though, Elias Watsfeldt trying to play it safe here. Also, yeah, as we see, there is an Executioner Swing, so actually a block with the Balustrade Spy and the swing would mean that the Alms Beast would die.
Yeah. And I'm assuming that Watsfeldt's plan here is to get rid of the flyer with one of his own removal spells, because that just means that Smite and Executioner Swing aren't going to be solutions available to Bergstrom. And we are only 2 hits away from the Alms Beast being lethal here. Watsfeldt showing that he's on top of this game, his game plan extending for multiple turns, opting not to attack when he could have, but rather playing it very, very safe, letting his opponent drop the Orzhov Charm, getting it countered, and then going in there for the throat.
Yeah, mills 2 cards with the Grizzly Spectacle, Balustrade Spy hits the bin, and now with that Evolve trigger thanks to the Metropolis Sprite, there's actually 8 flying damage coming in, threatening lethal the following turn. So Elias Watsfeldt probably keeping his team alive here, unless Jonathan Bergstrom can come up with a miracle removal spell.
Yeah, either a very powerful removal spell or a flyer. Both didn't happen. Another game beautifully played by Elias. I think he's really somewhat of a composer when it comes to his game plans.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Now that one means that here we see still not the deciding game, because Mikael Magnusson on the right is up a game on Fredrik Carlsson on the left. And the situation does seem to be very similar as when we left off. Just Mikael Magnusson adding on the Bomber Core and a Madcap skills, putting on the pressure here.
Looks like he's willing to trade his Bomber Core for just the Basilica Guards. He might have another Tragri, but we saw that Magnuson wasn't really doing much with what what we left him with.
Yeah.
So that Depth's pulpit really taking over.
Yeah, Fredrik Carlsson also doing quite well to deal with the Guardian of Gateless there. So now it's 2 Urbis Protectors and their Angel tokens, but one player has a Depth's pulpit. So that just means that Magnusson on 7 here has to find a way to deal with the 4/4 flyer and do so soon, or with the land.
Yeah, that would be an interesting line if he was actually able to get rid of Debtor's Pulpit through some ways or another, destroying the land, destroying the enchantment. But time is running out here. I think that we are going to see a lethal Angel attack close out this game. So it's going to a deciding game.
Yep.
Orzhov against Boros. Boros on the play. Who's going to come out ahead?
Yeah, which Swedish team will take it here? Will it be the pros or the unexpected finalists here at GP Utrecht, but fully deserving after we've seen them play some great magic throughout the weekend.
And they have shown to be able to dominate Larson, Magnusson and Watsfeldt again. That's definitely going to give them a psychological advantage as well. They don't have to be afraid of anything. They know what they are capable of, and they're here to show it.
Yeah, an interesting storyline playing out here is not only the friendly grudge match, because they both, all the players here know each other very well. They've been around on the GP circuit together, but bragging rights is definitely something that is worth playing for in this finals. Not only the trophy, but the bragging rights. It's important to have and claim the victory over your friends. But additionally, Joel Larson and Watsfeldt are known for their second place finishes. They definitely want to break the curse. They feel confident and don't want to let this happen. They won't let a second loss happen here. And they will do whatever it takes.
You have to know that Elias is quite a confident player despite his age. He was telling me he's lost in a quarterfinals, he's lost in a semifinals, he's lost in a finals, and there's just no other way other than winning this time.
Yeah, as we have seen on our coverage at the end of last year, losing that epic top 8 in the finals to Ivan Floch in Lisbon, where he only lost to a top deck supreme verdict from Ivan Floch in game 1 and just never quite could get going in game 2. And now he has to pin his hopes on Mikael Magnusson, taking down round 1 of this finals here at Grand Prix Utrecht. Because even if Mikael Magnusson does take the game, it only means that the Swedish pro team is up a round on their opponents.
And you see that Magnusson is quite unfazed by that. It is a game to decide that first round, but he's sitting next to 2 of Sweden's finest players, a country that has put up an amazing performance this weekend. They are putting a whole lot of new faces on the map, on the Pro Tour to be exact, and that's quite an accomplishment.
Oh, definitely, and 2 very good teams being eliminated in the semi-finals. So definitely, both teams deserve to be here, and I'm sure will represent their countries and themselves at the Pro Tour in San Diego very respectfully.
Yeah, and I suppose that 4 of the 6 players we are seeing here are very happy to go to the Pro Tour, have their flights paid. But in the case of Joel Larson and Elias Watsfeldt, they are also on the hunt for pro points, wanting to reach platinum level, make sure that they can play all the Pro Tours. And of course, once you have a second place finish at the Pro Tour, every pro point counts.
Oh yeah, definitely. So here we go, the final game of round 1 here in the finals of GP Utrecht. Mikael Magnusson on the right, giving the heads up. So does Fredrik Carlsson on the left, so no mulligans. Boros Guildgate for Mikael Magnusson. Fredrik Carlsson already shaking his head a little bit, and he hasn't even played a spell yet. So yeah, 2 mana Bomber Core. So no Void Halberdiers. That would be a lot of damage very early. So Bomber Core also, but a decent creature, especially when followed up by some nice Legionnaires or Madcap skills. Basilica's creature from Fredrik Carlsson. You see our Boros Charm, one of Joel Larson's favorite cards. Yeah, here's the Bomber Core attacking. Block from Basilica's creature. And Martial Glory, very aggressive play from Mikael Magnusson here. Not even playing the land before combat. Interesting.
Wanted to make sure that that Basilica's creature was out of the way. The early games of Gatecrash Limited being very much about board presence and getting a leg up on your opponent. Now that Bomber Core is somewhat dominated, but we are looking at Mugging and Bergström still in Magnusson's hand, but of course he does want a larger creature.
Yeah, he also has a Millennial Gargoyle, so he might just decide to get on the board and clear out the way the following turn. So he does have a lot of aggressive Boros creatures here. Yeah, goes for the Millennial Gargoyle, passes the turn. So now the ball in Fredrik Carlson's court. He does have another land and can play some sizable creatures. We do see a Zarichi Tiger, which proved quite problematic in the previous game, gaining I think 6 life throughout the 3 turns before being dispatched. So what can Fredrik Carlson here do? Because in the last game, on turn 4, Purge the Profane proved to be the crucial play, and I think that won him the game.
Yes, especially because Magnusson was forced to discard 2 powerful spells, Skynet Legionnaire and Martial Glory, and just wasn't expecting that his hand was in any danger. And the early removal and trades from his opponent made it possible for him to apply that discard spell to its full effect.
Yeah, Millennial Gargoyle gets in for 2. Mikael Magnusson here adds Mugging on the Court Street Denizen. So wants to put Fredrik Carlson on the defensive, maybe forcing him to start using the Tiger a little bit more than he would have liked to. But with no creatures on Magnusson's side of the board, it's going to be tough.
Yeah. Magnusson is looking at a very, very creature-light draw with only that Bergström left to him. He did decide to play his 5th land, which once again means that Purge the Profane is basically guaranteed to get spells out of his hand, which is somewhat questionable considering that Bergström might be in his hand for quite a while.
Yeah, it does seem like he has 2 cards in his hand, maybe 1. So definitely wants to drop the assemble the Legion now, just with which he won game 1. Game 2, no legions were assembled, and the Fredrik Carlson managed to take his Urbis Protector token to victory, and he doesn't seem to have another land, so we'll probably only add a Slate Street Ruffian to the board. It actually attacks with his Zarichi Tiger because he doesn't seem to have enough lands to activate it. Yep.
The problem with his draw being that he's on a single planes, so he can't really afford to play a creature, a white creature, and activate the Tiger anyway. So just forced to run out the creatures he's working with here.
Yeah, Mikael Magnusson actually drew an Assault Griffin, which he plays now. A great threat on this board, especially when Fredrik Carlson doesn't have the second planes to start churning out the spells.
And it does mean that playing the land last turn allowed him to go up to 6 lands, keep up that Bergstrom to protect his best creature. And Carlson's draw isn't really performing in the way he would like to.
Yeah, but he does, that Prophetic Prism not only allowed him to color his mana a bit better for his use, but also drew him the second plane, so he should now be pretty safe in playing his cards. I think he does have an Urbis Protector in his hand, which he would have liked to play as soon as possible, considering he's facing 5 damage from Mikael Magnusson. But even a swing for 4 here, dropping Magnusson at 12, means that it's still actually a race for now.
And that's actually an aggressive attack, especially that Zarichi Tiger, considering that Bomber Core is able to shoot with Copper Guildmage, and that allows it to attack. So this is going to be interesting. Are we going to see Magnusson attack with all creatures or stay back with Bomber Core? Currently no 1 toughness creatures on Carlson's side of the board. Also not something that you expect the Orzhov deck to have a lot of. So I think that's actually a trade that Magnusson is happy to offer.
Yeah, and Carlson takes the trade as well. So trading his better Viscopa Guildmage against the poor Bomber Core thanks to his battalion triggered ability. Both players seem to be happy about that. Carlson drops down to 11. But actually, the race isn't favoring Mikael Magnusson that much at this point, especially with the Zarichi Tiger not being used defensively but offensively, because Fredrik Carlson knows he's a little bit ahead.
Yeah, it's a 2 life swing either way, but attacking doesn't cost you mana. one of the beauties of creature combat in Magic. Carlson didn't find a sixth land, and that might be crucial because he isn't able to get that flyer onto the battlefield.
Yeah, but actually plays a Thrall Parasite and follows up with a White of Precinct 6 and extorts going up to 12, dropping Magnuson down to 7 actually now, yeah. White of Precinct 6 is a 2/2 now as well, so although the creatures are quite mediocre on Fredrik Carlson's side of the board, they combined for quite a lot of damage. Yeah, and Mikael Magnuson has to actually defend here.
No, that's not what he wanted to happen. Carlson finds land number 6, so also has potential Urbis Protector coming down. Well, no extort, but I don't think he minds. Can also attack here, which could lead to a defensive Bergström being played, giving Magnuson's creatures indestructibility.
Yeah, so 6th land. Which way does he decide to go? He has several ways because he does have only spells in his hand. Could maybe go for a cheaper creature to extort.
Yeah, the important thing here is that you want to make sure to beat as many combination of cards as possible, but also to stay realistic. You aren't going to beat 2 Madcap skills, but Magnuson isn't going to hold 2 Madcap skills because he would have killed you earlier. So I think a card that the Swedish team to our left could be afraid of is Act of Treason, because playing Urbis Protector leaves you very vulnerable to Act of Treason on the 4/4 flyer and an attack. So rather we are going to see Bergström make my creatures indestructible, and let's see what happens.
Yeah, well, let's see if Fredrik Carlson no, he doesn't have actually reply, so a very good combat for Mikael Magnuson here. Basically trading it for a 2-for-1, dropping down to 5, but now that Urbis Protector with it's 4/4 token. Does he go for the cheaper spell? He has to go for the Protector, right?
The Protector is not only threatening for damage, but it's also an important blocker if Magnuson draws something good. But he can always extort the turn after, so he probably doesn't worry about that. There is still the looming threat of Act of Treason, but I think they just go for it.
The Angel token flying in on the battlefield, literally and figuratively. Mikael Magnuson now on the back foot again after such a good combat with the Boris Charm, has to face off against the Angel token. Might be even forced to double block, but that would mean that he still is going to take quite a lot of damage. And with the extort from Thrall Parasite looming, 5 mana, Viscopa Confessor.
And that's not only going to extort one, but show Carlson that there isn't anything in Magnuson's hand to save him. So if Magnuson reveals his hand here, Carlson knows that he can attack with everything.
Takes 3 from the Confessor. Land. Mikael Magnuson with 3 lands in his hand. 1 gets discarded. The Plains it is. And now, Fredrik Carlson very confident. It's very clear what is happening here, so it does seem like he will just swing with everything.
Hey, he has the win on board, so there's no block from Magnuson that well, I think he can chump block basically.
He can chump block too.
Yeah, but
he can chump block the Angel token, trade with Ruffian, take 2.
There's no way for Magnuson to block very profitably. He's always losing 1 creature.
Yeah.
And with Magnuson on 0 spells,
and facing an extort trigger,
don't think there's anything, but let's see what he draws.
What is it? Is it going to slam it? Is it a miracle?
Bonfire.
It's another land. So wow, the 10th land from Mikael Magnusson, getting really flooded here. So the unknown Swedish team takes down round 1, which means that now they're going into round 2, and with the unknown Swedish players, having a big advantage.
Yeah.
Just need to win 1 more round.
Not always bad to be the underdog, as we've seen.
Welcome back to us here in the booth. I'm Matej Big Zalka, here with Simon Gertzen. You've just seen round 1 of the finals here at Grand Prix Utrecht. The Swedish team of Westling, Fredrik Carlson and Jonas Bergström actually taking down the round, putting their more famous pro pro countrymen at shame.
Yeah, a very, very close round that was decided on a single game. Elias Watsfeldt duking out in the control mirror, Joel Larsson losing with his Simic deck, and in the end it was Orzhov beating Boros, and I think I've seen that a couple of times this tournament. The Boros decks just struggling against the control-ish Orzhov decks.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens next. What do you think about the decks that we've seen?
I think we're seeing very good examples of the decks you want to be drafting in Gatecrash. Each draft is unique, but you can see the recurring themes of the format. Boros isn't only about battalion, but shaping combat in a way that makes it impossible for your opponent to race you, and then you are forcing them to run into your tricks. The same goes for Gruul decks, even though you're a bit higher up on the curve. And Orzhov is just doing what Orzhov does best. The best curve for Orzhov is extort creature, extort creature, extort creature, and then I have some more spells as well.
Yeah, but we saw only Elias Watsfeldt emerging victorious there with his very interesting Esper control deck. What I really liked about that match is showing off that in Team Limited, even very niche cards can prove to be very successful. And you're facing such a matchup as Control and Control, a hexproof creature with 4 toughness, it just chunked away at Jonathan Bergstrom turn after turn.
Yeah, that was really well played, well deserved that match win, but it didn't matter in the end. Joe Larson just losing too quickly. I think his deck is fine. He would have loved Cloudfin Raptors, but I think had some things gone differently, he could have emerged victorious just looking at the power level of the decks.
Yeah. So the players are just setting up for round 2 here. We can already reveal who's playing who, so we will see Elias Watsfeldt against Fredrik Carlson. So in this match, probably Elias being the favored one, just because playing against the Orzhov deck, we already seen the Esper control decks do have somewhat of an advantage.
And then when you look at cards like Zarichi Tiger, which was actually quite good against the Boros deck, it's almost going to be worthless against Elias control deck. So yeah, Elias should be the favorite there.
Yeah, and then we'll see we have Joel Larson and Jonathan Bergstrom. So Jonathan Bergstrom on the Esper control deck from the other side against Joel Larson's Simic deck. How do you feel about this one?
Oh, that's really interesting because the nature of the Simic deck means that almost all creatures are potentially threats thanks to Evolve and how the Simic deck functions. And the Orzhov deck is just full of removal. But it really comes down if you can force the control deck to handle every single one of your cards one by one, then the aggressive deck is usually going to come out on top. Sure. If the control deck finds ways to 2-for-1 the opponent and maybe make a lot of creatures useless, for example, by providing larger ground blockers, then it's a different story.
Yeah, so we'll see how that turns out, but definitely Joel Larson with an interesting Simic deck, so we'll see what kind of draws Jonathan Bergstrom has to maybe take this home for him. And in rematch, we'll have something very aggressive happening. We have Mikael Magnusson on Boros against Tomas Westling's super aggressive Gruul deck. What do you think about that one?
That's the most difficult to evaluate, in my opinion. Usually, if there is 2 aggressive decks and one of them is 1 mana more expensive, then that's exactly the point in the curve where you can dominate your opponent's creatures and not take too much damage yourself.
Right.
On the control axis, basically, you are just dominating the decks that are just a little bit to your left, just a little bit faster.
Yeah, sure.
And the Gruul deck might not only have the larger creatures, but also the higher speed. And because we have seen Hellraiser Goblin be an absolute VIP for Westling in the first round against Larson. So I would say that the Gruul deck is probably favored. However, Boros can win any matchup, and there is also Assemble the Legion if things could sort out that way. However, I don't think we're going to see that much trading, so expect games to be over by turn 6.
I was actually, that's the point I kind of wanted to do, that Assemble the Legion is a very powerful card. Can be actually too slow against in the very temporary matchup, but we've seen Mikael Magnusson deck with Millennial Gargoyle in his somewhat aggressive Boros deck. Not the best card, and probably again to be not as optimal as he would have liked. But both players can put up some really aggressive draws, so it depends. Maybe a mulligan decisioning might be very important here.
Yeah, mulligan decisions also, and that's something that has to be stressed. This is a very colorful format with a lot of gold cards, and if you are looking at a regular draft format with just the 5 colors and 2 color decks, then you're going to have, out of your 23 cards, let's say 10 are the one color and 13 are the other. If you draw only one of your colors, you can still play half or even more than half of your spells. In this format, if you're missing one color, you cannot cast 2/3 or more of your deck.
Sure.
And then if you draw that color later, you're still looking at 1 spell a turn. And we've seen that over and over again.
Yeah.
Even in the games where people are doing fine, if they only have a single planes, it severely limits their options.
Yeah, it is a recurring theme we've seen, and especially when in team draft, the decks are a bit more unstable, can get punished very quickly by some of the aggressive decks, but even some slower controllers decks were successful if they managed to put their mana together, their defensive spells, and set up a nice defense. We've seen especially in day one, where it's a different story, but the Orzhov decks is continually dropping down to single digits and then clawing themselves back into the game.
So yeah, making for some great stories.
Yeah.
And one thing I can suggest, if you're having trouble with the mana consistency issues, there is the guild gates in all the colors. And even in aggressive 2-color decks, it's not a problem to play some amount of guild gates. It might cost you the 1-drop you were trying to play, but whenever you mulligan, you look at two lands and one of them is a guild gate, you are just so thankful that your mana is working out.
Yeah, exactly, and I completely agree that the guild gates, although not preferably in aggressive decks, can play a very vital role in when you build your decks. So yeah, the players are setting up, I believe, already shuffling up, so we'll be heading there shortly. Just to recap, we do have now, right at the start of round 2 of the finals here at Utrecht, 2 Swedish teams playing against each other. The unknowns, as we have called them so far, against the pros. Together with Mikael Magnusson, who we also don't know much about, but at least he has some style, and that fits Joel Larsson very well. He has been in a suit for the 2 days here, so very interesting. But the unknown players really providing quite a struggle for the pros here. I also find it interesting that they made some really bad decks work. I saw Tomas Westling at least in 2 matches where he played some atrocious decks. And he managed to pull out the important wins here and there. So actually, it's when you go from you know, you have a bad draft, but you pull it together in the build. Your friends help you build your deck correctly. You sort out the mana, and if you draw well, then you can defeat anyone.
And don't forget that Magic is always about power versus consistency. So what you're lacking in power, you can sometimes make up by adding a 3rd color, reducing the consistency of your deck, but you will be able to compete with some of the more powerful synergistic 2-color decks in the format. And we've seen that be true for almost all the team matches we've covered.
Yep, so we're going to be starting off with here with the round 2, we have Elias Watsfeldt against Fredrik Carlsson, Joel Larsson against Jonathan Bergstrom, and Mikael Magnusson against Tomas Westling. And some interesting matchup. As you see, the players are still laughing and having fun, teasing each other as they go. They're already happy that they did get to the finals, but definitely bragging rights, and both teams want to take home the trophy. It's a great accomplishment to win a GP. So.
Especially one of this size, with so many grueling rounds, and but the team of Watsfeldt, Magnusson, Larson must feel pretty bad having lost 3 rounds to their opponents already.
Already 3 rounds, they had 2 in the Swiss and now 1 in the finals. They definitely want to get revenge as soon as possible, because otherwise Bergström, Wesling and Carlson are taking home the trophy. It's also an interesting tournament just because we saw just a great number of really good teams popping up at the top tables throughout the day, especially the German teams with at least 1 or 2 good players in the team pulling it through. So I'm not surprised, but yeah, we're going on to round 2 here in the finals of Grand Prix Utrecht. Fredrik Carlson on the left, Elias Watsfeldt on the right, and we'll see what they'll bring to the stage here. Yeah, so the players are just about to start, so we'll see how it goes. And yeah, waiting on our signal to go, and they're looking just about to start. Elias Watsfeldt on the right on his Esper control deck, Fredrik Carlsson on his Orzur control deck, so Elias probably at advantage here, right?
I believe so. It looks like these players have resolved mulligans already, so we are basically looking at them to start now. Elias actually up with quite the aggressive draw for his control deck, starting off with a Cloudfin Raptor against his opponent's Syndic of Tithe, playing at blisteringly fast speed here.
Yeah, Elias actually is known for being a super fast player. I've played against him on Magic Online, and it's incredible how fast he actually taps his mana and plays the spells. He's very fast.
So both players off to a great start. Gutter Skull being just the right card to trade with Syndic of Tithe, or threaten to trade with the Syndic. Also evolving the Cloudfin Raptor. Carlson not playing anything. Doesn't he have a drop, or is he trying to play one of his removal spells?
Yeah, we've seen his deck does have some mediocre cards and some late game cards as well. So yeah, we see just the Gutter Skull attacking here. Cloudfin Raptor staying home.
No,
and it takes the two.
There is a couple of cards that you can play around at that point, and Executioner Swing is certainly one of them. There's nothing wrong with wanting to get some more value out of that Cloudfin Raptor, if that's what you expect Carlson to have. In theory, there could also be aerial maneuver, but that would have Carlson would have to be very safe, very sure that Watsfeldt doesn't hold something like Devour Flash.
Yeah, oh, definitely, yeah. Here, Fredrik Carlson is looking at attacking with his Syndic of Tides here for 2, dropping Watsfeldt down to 18, and probably follow up with, I'm guessing, Zarichi Tiger. I haven't seen the Carlson's hand yet, but yeah, it is a Tiger, as we've seen in round 1 here at Utrecht.
Something that's very important is that Elias doesn't get locked into the mindset of being the aggressor because he had the more aggressive start. On the other hand, if he can get a win just by beating down, he's certainly going to take it.
Oh, definitely. He wouldn't mind that. He doesn't need to get to the late game, where he can play his super late drops. And you see a Leyline Phantom, 5/5, dominating the board here. And Fredrik Carlson does have to find an answer for it because it can just deal so much damage and grow the Cloudfin Raptor repeatedly.
And Carlson, once again, just like on turn 3, he's passing with 4 cards in hand, and now he does hold Smite there. Elias doesn't know it. The Orzhov deck could be on the commons, Smite and Executioner Swing, but there's also Orzhov Charm and Arrows of Justice. Now Watsfeldt has seen Orzhov Charm from his last opponent, so probably most aware of Smite and Executioner Swing.
Most likely that he will want to play around the swing. And he has talked to his teammate about it, who faced him in round 1. So that won't be Mikael Magnusson. And since Elias finished pretty early, then he had enough time to have a look. Yeah, here comes the Leyline Phantom, blocked Synthesize, and there's a Smite on the Phantom.
Okay, we see an Extort. Interesting decision to block with the Syndic, because if Elias has a counterspell there, then the exiled creature dies rather than Zarichi Tiger. And it's not clear which of the creatures is actually better, given that the Tiger has an additional toughness and the ability to gain 2. It might actually be the better card in the matchup.
We have a good overview of the feature match area here. Round 2 of Grand Utrecht. The Unknown Pros having the advantage here. And now we see Zarichi Tiger activation, gaining 2 life for Fredrik Carlson here. But after the Corpse Blockade was played from Elias Watsfeldt, the Cloudfin Raptor is now at a 3/4. And we'll have to start attacking sooner or later, unless there's a Debtor's Pulpit here from Fredrik Carlson.
Yeah. Watsfeldt was very patient once again. One of the recurring themes. He did want to make sure that his Raptor was posing a threat to the Orzhov deck that Carlson couldn't just handle without much effort. So he might actually build himself a 4/5 that's capable of blocking the 4/4 Angel token that comes with Urbis Protector.
Yep, so Urbis Protector played, will resolve. Here's the Angel token again flying in from this side of the board. And Elias was still only on 5 lands. I do see a Sapphire Drake in his hand.
also gift of Orzova, and now freshly drawn a Psychic Strike. They would have been so good one turn ago, but that's how it goes. Still doing very, very fine here, and now would love to have that counter up for the Debtor's Pulpit that you've seen in Carlson's hand, I believe.
Yeah, but there's no lands for Elias Watsfeldt here, so that Debtor's Pulpit definitely hard to deal with, and might threaten to take over the game, because the 4/4 flyer from Carlson can start taking 4-point swings out of Elias Watsfeld's life total.
He did gain 4 just now, thanks to gift of Orzova. However, that turn where the Debtor's Pulpit is coming down must really sting, because you are holding a counter spell for any potential removal spells. Smite or Executioner Swing weren't a big deal right now, so that's actually one of the worst cards that Carlson could play here for Watsfeldt.
He does draw another blue mana, so could potentially add the Sapphire Drake to his board as not a big flying threat to contend with the Angel token. So there's a Psychic Strike, and then one more card in his hand, which we cannot see currently. Yeah, here's the Sapphire Drake. So 4/4 flyers, pretty good.
4/4 flyers are good, are good in Magic. Didn't evolve the Cloud Free Raptor because Gift of the Orzova makes it a 4/5 creature already. So I'm not getting the counter there. And this might be the game where Debtor's Pulpit is continuously making sure that the largest creature of Watsfeldt isn't able to attack. On the other hand, it's already 2 flyers that Carlson has to worry about, kind of being put on the defensive, I feel like. Even though he has Extort and life gain, it isn't easy to raise Watsfeldt's deck.
Oh, definitely not. And yeah, Fredrik Carlson making sure he reads Sapphire Drake. It only gives only gives the flying bonus to creatures with a +1/+1 counter on it. Let's go on for Raptor. Cannot have 2 flyings. Even if it did, it will be tapped down by the Debtor's Pulpit recurringly.
Yeah. Watsfeldt thinking just very shortly about blocking here, but he's holding Psychic Strike, and he wants to make sure that when he blocks with Sapphire Drake, that a trade is actually occurring, rather than being blown out by some rather weak combat trick like Aerial Maneuver. You don't want to give your opponents that satisfaction of gaining so much from it. However, the extra creatures are really putting the pain on Elias.
And we see Kingpin's Pet being played and no extort triggers being resolved, so Fredrik Carlson trickily holding up his mana. And we see there's a Diluvian Primordial, I believe, now drawn from Elias Watsfeldt, who is only on 6 mana sources here, so cannot play it, and would probably prefer to wait a little bit longer. But he also knows that he might face the Purge the Profane, as we've seen before.
Oh, that's true, yeah. And Purge the Profane probably far stronger against Watsfeldt than against the Boros deck of Magnusson. Now, Elias is looking at this board and thinking, did he just decline to extort because he has a Zerichi Tiger? Or is he holding another removal spell?
Yeah, there's a called Nightwing going for 1/1 horror tokens.
So Watsfeldt able to cipher onto his Sapphire Drake, distributing the aura / encoded cards between his 2 flyers, and now Debtor's Pulpit is only going to tap one of them. Carlson has to decide whether he wants to deny the 1/1 horror token, or if he cares more about the life gain. And despite him wanting to extort out Elias Watsfeldt, it's usually not a good idea to give your opponent extra flyers either.
Yeah, especially ones that create every turn, as we've seen with Bitter Blossom in the past. There was the life lost every turn, but here every turn attack. I'm not sure if Fredrik Carlson wants to let that happen. I mean, he can gain 2 life off the Zerich Tiger every turn, but those 1/1 tokens will start piling up fast.
And what Carlson does want to happen, though, is that he can play the Executioner Swing in his hand at some point. And Watsfeldt leaving, if Watsfeldt leaves back a blocker, then Carlson also wants it to be the 4/4 rather than the 4/5, because that is the only way that he can attack with his Angel, if he still wants to.
Yep, and it's a very interesting game because it does show a lot of play skill again from Elias Watsfeldt. I'm not surprised. He's playing really well around the executioner swing, which at this point has to know that Fredrik Carlsson has in his hand.
Yeah, it was somewhat unfortunate that he was forced to tap out after his opponent played Urbis Protector and was then able to follow it up with Debtor's Pulpit. Had he been able to counter that, I feel like he would have been in much better shape. But that's the price you pay for playing auras in the first place, and you don't always have the mana for your counter spells when the opponent plays his best spells. That would just be, far too good.
Definitely. So
there's a price to pay for everything.
Yeah. So Elias Watsfeldt now thinking about what he wants to do here. Now finally has Psychic Strike and 2 creatures which could actually attack here. So tapping down the Clausen Raptor with the Gift of Orzhova. And will Elias Watsfeldt go for the attack here? He does finally go with the Sapphire Drake.
Yeah, and this is also because we are entering a phase where he, in a certain sense, wants his opponent to play some more removal spells in order to be able to copy them with his Diluvian Primordial.
Yeah.
However, that's going to be difficult with cards like Smite and Executioner Swing because they have a very peculiar targeting restrictions.
Yep. So Extort triggers off the Executioner Swing, so they'll do the life total change here. But we're pretty sure that Elias Watsfeldt will run the Psychic Strike on the swing here. Yep. So he does.
Yeah.
Hopefully milling some instant sorceries for him because he does have the blue Primordial in his hand, which he would love to use. Basilica Guards and a Swamp, so no additional removal spells. Smite and Swing, not as good.
And Elias also showed that he had, or potentially gave away that he was holding a counterspell there, because he could have drew up Basilica Screecher before attacking, and then he would have gotten an Extort out of the Call of the Nightwing. However, he was going to counter the removal spell.
You have Fredrik Carlson on an Angelic Skirmisher here. After drawing out the counter from with the Executioner Swing, he now could land his 6 mana 4/4 flyer, which could prove to be very good. And as we see, Mikael Magnusson actually up a game again. He did so in the round 1. He still lost the match, so now Elias Watsfeldt will try to do the same, but with Angelic Skirmisher, Fredrik Carlson in a very good position.
Yeah, Angelic Skirmisher is a creature that you don't really want to face. At the beginning of each combat, Carlson is going to have the choice between Vigilance, First Strike, and Lifelink, and that is not only the Skirmisher, but the whole team. So now we're going to see Vigilance creatures attacking, First Striking creatures mounting an insurmountable defense, and that card certainly changing the tide of battle, just like an Angelic Skirmisher should.
The Angelic Skirmisher is so good because you can actually give the First Strike, Vigilance, or Lifelink to creatures at the beginning of each combat. So not only yours, but also the opponent's. So we'll definitely see that being put to good effect here. Going for Vigilance first, and then attacking for 4. So now, Elias Watsfeldt, what can he do here?
It looks like Elias is holding less removal than one would expect from his Esper deck. Usually, I think we saw Bergström with the Esper control deck. Or was it?
Bergström is on the Esper control deck.
And he was just holding 3-4 removal spells, playing all of them. And Elias has to work with slightly different cards, going for auras, cipher spells, counter spells, and that's actually difficult when you're facing down a card like Angelic Skirmisher that just needs to be answered.
Yeah, it's a very big problem because what Fredrik Carlson can do here is give Vigilance on his turn, attack with one of his flyers to offer up the trade. Here's a Horror, Dim, and an Extort. And on the opponent's turn, he just goes for First Strike, and since he has 6 First Strike damage and flyers, Elias Watsfeldt has no way to break through here.
Yeah. Even if Elias draws land number 7, he doesn't have a good target for his Diluvian Primordial in Carlson's graveyard. So neither Smite nor Executioner Swing well, Smite isn't really castable when you play the Primordial, but also Executioner Swing. You would have to trick Larson into letting one of his best creatures deal damage, and that's just not likely to happen at this level of play.
Yeah, the match between Joel Larsson and Jonathan Bergström here on the bottom, it lasting so long makes me think that Jonathan actually established a good board position, because his Esper control deck looks to gum up the board, and Joel Larsson's deck was pretty aggressive, and he doesn't have that many ways to push through unless he draws the gridlock.
Yeah, Larsson's deck basically stopping at 4 mana, but on the other hand, if he times things correctly, he might be forcing Bergstrom to just stay on the defensive, handling all his creatures. So I wouldn't count him out yet.
Yeah, so here we see Fredrik Carlson switching from Vigilance on Skirmisher to a First Strike, it seems. And this way, when he attacks, yeah, he forces out chump blocks, because he cannot. Elias Watsfeldt cannot block profitably here. And even though he doesn't have very good sorceries or instants in Fredrik Carlson graveyard to use his Primordial on, if he draws the land, it will probably serve best as a 5/5 blocker.
And the more I see of Carlson's deck, it might actually be the perfect Orzhov deck, because it can beat the control decks with late game bombs and removal. It can beat the aggressive decks, as we've seen, those Zerichi Tigers, extort cards, and the 6-drops, as well as the cheap removal spells, punishing the aggro decks. And Carlson might have drafted the deck that wins his team the tournament.
Yeah, as we see Jonathan Bergstrom up a game here on Joel Larsson. As we thought, Jonathan Bergstrom stabilized the board and took the game. So now if Fredrik Carlson manages to take home this game as well, the pro team definitely very much on the back foot. Still there are games to be played, nothing's decided yet, but it will go down to the wire. And now we see one creature was tapped down with the Debtor's Pulpit. That was the Cloudfin Raptor, but the Sapphire Drake does look to be attacking here.
Yeah, with only a Kingpin's Pen, that's not a good blocker when a Sapphire Drake is coming knocking at the door. Might even see a chump block here.
That would be very interesting. He doesn't want. He does take it, so a 1/1 Black Horror should be created here. Elias Watsfeldt plays the land and the Diluvian Primordial. Yeah, but knows that there's Smite and Executioner Swing, so not much he can do with that one.
Yeah, he could have offered up a sacrificial lamp there, attacking with his Gutter Skull, for example. Yeah, would have allowed Carlson to let one of his creatures or even more deal damage, and that Elias could have gained some value from the Diluvian Primordial there.
It gets tapped with Pulpit here, and the Flyers look to be swinging in for lethal damage here. Does he have even one more removal spell? 5 mana, Shadow Slice.
Oh yeah, that's more than
That's
lethal.
more than enough. So yeah, Shadow Slice, 3 damage, and Fredrik Carlson takes the game here. So the unknown team has 2 advantages: being up a round, as we see, 1-0. They won round 1, and now being 2 games up in round 2. They're looking to go 4 straight wins against their more known countrymen.
And they can feel it now. It's within reach. They haven't lost a round to the pro team yet, and just doing their job, winning their games. They know they must be highly favorites now.
Yeah, it's very poignant that the only losses so far, and what can actually only happen here, is that Joel Larsson's team can have 4 losses throughout the whole tournament, all of them being to the team of Bergstrom, Wesling, and Carlson. That would be interesting.
Yep, you can't win the tournament if you can't beat that team, it looks like. So we are down to the finals. Which Swedish team is going to come out on top?
Yeah, so we'll have a look at all matches still happening. We might have a quick glimpse at feature B, which is going on, which is middle match. I convinced Rich to do it just so we get just for a minute to get a quick look at Mikael Magnusson, who's up a game, facing off against Tomas Westling. True Fire Paladin against Capcan and Charger here. Pretty even board, not much happening. Bomber Core added. But yeah, this game still has a lot of magic in it. But the True Fire Paladin might threaten to take over the game. Mikael Magnusson maybe hasn't assembled the Legion. This could be over quickly. It does seem to have a Millennial Gargoyle, Thawing Thunderfist, so 4/4 actually pretty impressive on this board.
Yeah, not quite assembled the Legion, but
Yep. So we'll see how that pans out. Now back to the match between Jonathan Bergstrom and Joel Larsson. So Joel Larsson down a game. Jonathan Bergstrom starting off with a great creature right off the bat. It looks small and inconspicuous, but that dutiful throw will do a lot of damage.
it does mean that there is one less creature to worry about from the Simic deck. So you will always be able to block the strongest ground creature, but Joel Larson has the dream Simic start. He didn't play a 1-drop, but let's be honest. Shamble Shark into Dracoring Craces, that's what you want to happen every game.
And definitely with Joel only having one Shamble Shark in his deck, he always wants to draw it. And as I was saying, here comes the throw. But yeah, no black mana for Jonathan Bergstrom. That might be a big problem because we know that he has a lot of black-based removal spells in Orzo Charm, Grizzly Spectacle, and others. So that might be holding him back significantly here.
Yeah, and don't forget that blue-white is not a guild in Gatecrash. So without the black source, he's not able to play the white-black Orzhov spells or the blue-black Dimir spells.
Yeah, so now tap Dimir Guildgate doesn't help the throw. It gets taken out by Pit Fight. 8 more damage from Jonathan Larson. This is a dream game for him, punishing Jonathan Bergstrom for a very slow start. Yeah, and he just scoops them up. So this game is over very quickly. Joel Larson taking a game for his team, a very vital game for him to take.
Power versus consistency.
Yeah, and we're back to table B. Mikael Magnuson against Thomas Westling. I knew this would be a match worth watching, and we see not much added to the board here. So green side watcher just on Thomas Westling's side. That Thunder Fist really towering over the battlefield here.
And we actually see. Did we see an attack? Yeah, I think we did, right?
Yeah,
probably with the vigilance of both creatures being exploited, and that must mean that Magnuson is ahead in the life total race. And I think it was a pretty good idea to play that mugging on that Hellraiser Goblin, because we saw that be, I believe, the most important card in the last round, allowing the Gruul deck to just beat down on the Simic deck.
Yeah, it allows it to go into overdrive because not only can you follow it up with creatures to attack with, but there's a lot of guessing work for the opponent now. The opponent doesn't know if he can allow himself to attack or if there's a really big swine coming, as we saw before. And Blood Rush also very good. You can even play a small creature to accompany the Hellraiser Goblin and still leave a mana to Blood Rush. So a lot of potential angles going on here. And yeah, Thomas Westling definitely would love to get that going, but it does seem to have stalled out a little bit here in the face of the towering Thunderfist.
And Westling, certainly drafted one of the stronger decks of the weekend. I think that this is how your Gruul decks should look like, and he's trying to come back here because facing off True Fire Paladin, a 4/4 Thunderfist, and the 2/2 Flyer is somewhat of a difficult spot to be in, and Magnuson isn't willing to risk his creatures against any kind of Blood Rush effects.
Yeah. Here, a very simple trade: a Millennial Gargoyle for Greenside Watcher, Scapclunk Charger getting through, and followed up with a Skinbrand Goblin, so also revealing the trick in the hand that does get played. That's why Blood Rush is so good.
It shows that Magnuson opting not to block the Scapclunk Charger that was offered there with his Towering Thunderfist didn't allow the Skinbrand Goblin to actually trade there.
Yeah. Now we see Mikael Magnusson also has Skynet Legionnaire, so he actually might take his action to the air. So white, yeah, no, just goes with the 2 creatures. He knows he has a nice advantage there with the Paladin, which does have Vigilance but can give itself first strike, which in the face of a 2/1 and a 1/2 creatures is nice to have.
Yeah, and Magnuson playing this almost like Elias Watsfeldt is playing his control deck. He does have options, but he's opting to just hold back, knowing that the board he has with maybe a combat trick in hand is basically not something that the Gruul deck can beat. So he isn't forced to run out all his creatures and swing in there, but he can just make sure that he wins the race before Westling does.
Yeah, and Westling being only on 8 life and Magnusson on 14 he does look to be in great shape. And what I quite like about his plan as well, he does have a lot of cards in his hand, so he's not giving up anything. He might even be holding a smite or something similar, although we don't think he is. But Thomas Wesling doesn't know that, so that's a big advantage for Mikael Magnusson. And also, it basically forces you to deal with these guys, and if you do, I have more to follow them up with.
What's really important about this format is that if you pass with a couple of lands untapped, you make it very difficult for your opponent to even attack you, because the playing field is much more even compared to when you tap out and give your opponent a full reign of the combat step.
And now we see the Blood Rush guys getting played actually. The Slaughterhorn played as a 3-2, not... ooh, wow, end of turn. Homing Lightning on a Charger. The only creature with 4 toughness will make the blocks for Thomas Westling even that more difficult. And this is the problem with the Gruul decks. Once you're on the defensive, your Blood Rush cards cannot be used offensively for good measure, and that is just a tough situation. Ooh, we also see Bergström, so Mikael Magnuson just a few spells away from the win here.
And he, at this point, he probably can afford to take things a little more aggressively. This game should be over quite quickly as long as Magnusson does connect with one of his creatures again. Would have liked to see Magnusson not go for the Vigilance here, because that would have allowed him to use Boris Charm as a lethal burn spell or double strike effect if either of his creatures came through.
Yeah, so yeah, we see blocking the season's always tough. You never know what will blow you out, so what can Thomas Westling do here? Double block on the Towering Thunderfist? Yeah, it does look that way.
And now that means that this is already a pretty good spot for Magnusson to be in.
Well, he even has a Martial Glory, wow, so pumps the power of the Truefire Paladin, the toughness of Towering Thunderfist, takes Westling down to 3, and with Boris Charm in his hand, just waiting to untap and puts it on the front there sneakily. He knows it's coming, so Mikael Magnusson looks to be the first one to take a match here for the pro Swedish team. Yeah, and Thomas Westling just scoops them up. He has still had all of these left in my hand, so...
Yeah, probably doesn't want to show them because he might still have to play another round if this goes to a round 3, which, yeah, Joel and Elias have to work for.
So now we see, actually, exactly as I talked about, in the graveyard we see Dimir Charm, that's approach, and Orzo Charm, dealing with 3 creatures they are in the graveyard for Joel Larson here, while Jonathan Bergstrom developed his board. Still only on 3 lands though, has a 1000 lashes in his hand as well, so does have all 3 colors of his mana, but actually just started attacking here. Oh, Larson already down to 11 here. Jonathan Bergstrom must have been very aggressive with his creatures. Followed up with a Kingpin's Pet. Wow, that's a 3-land draw of the dreams. That right there from Jonathan Bergstrom. Joel Larson down to 6.
Top decks an Ivy Lane Denizen, and that's huge because he is holding Pit Fight. So that's actually a card that might get him back into the game.
Yeah, Joel Larson only down to 1 card this turn, proving very good for him. Now having 2/3 creatures which block the guys of Jonathan Bergstrom quite well, who still doesn't have another land. So yeah, just the Daring Sky coming here. Yeah, we see Mikael and Elias Watsfeldt evening it out. I saw a Metropolis spread with a few things on it, so it does seem like probably a few ciphers.
Oh, this match is also going to be really, really interesting. This might be where Bergstrom comes out ahead once he gets his spells active, but then Elias has the chance to fight, claw their way back into this by winning his matchup.
Yeah, we see a Banally Broker from Bergstrom might follow. Yeah, there it is. Jonathan Watsfeldt. Yep, 2 cards, Frill Oculus and Hands of Biting. 2 very good cards actually being milled there for Joel, who does have a forest and passes the turn, so he's depleted out of cards. It will be tough because now the Banal Broker, once it gets going, it's very hard to stop.
Yeah, he can't be happy with how things went with his Simic deck. Every single card was dealt with. Now the first time that the broker is being activated, Bergstrom is actually starting to be in the driver's seat at 14 life. I don't think that Joel is going to take this match.
Yeah, Jonathan. Yeah, you see Joel Larsson already joking a little bit here. He knows he's in rough shape against the Jonathan Bergstrom, who did get the Bainelli broker going, also got his 4 land, and with a hand full of spells, Joel just knows he's in trouble. I think a card he would really like at this point would be Nimbus Swimmer, just because it would be very massive. It would be a 6/6 with 1,000 lashes. Gets countered by Scatter Arc.
Nice
Wow.
sideboarding there against the control deck.
Yeah, definitely a good sideboard card to have. And if he now actually untaps into the Swimmer, he could still actually do it here and turn the game around and the match. Because Jonathan Bergstrom, if he wins this game, then yeah, it will come all down to the wire between Carlson and Watsfeldt. So, disciple of the old ways. Yeah, puts a counter on it thanks to the Ivy Lane Denizen. But now, Bergstrom untaps. Will probably broker first, maybe to hope to draw more lands, some removal, anything to deal with the creatures. That's of Nasquet commandos there. Goes for the Balustrade Spy. Mills. A land is right on top, so only mills 1 card there. And passes the turn without using broker. Interesting.
You can always use the broker to block if necessary, and the best play is to activate it at end of turn. You always want to activate it because it is kind of a secondary library that you can draw from for the cheap price of a single blue and black.
Yeah, Joe Larson definitely wants to win this game to take the match and the round for his team here. Greenside Watcher putting another counter on the Disciple of the Old Ways. Now Bainelli Broker being used. Hides a card there. Still has a Dinrova Horror in his hand, as well as an Aspect Commandos, which is a very good blocker. So that could also prove very vital, but Jonathan Bergstrom does need lands. First of all, he needs the lands.
Yeah, and Bainelli Broker should get him there. He also isn't under too much pressure, so he can just activate it in his main phase and still be fine. He opted not to double block the Disciple of the Old Ways because he didn't want to lose the Balustrade Spy that was that is his main route to victory.
Yeah, with Jonathan Larson only on 6 life, this game has actually turned into a race. The Bainelli Broker again being waited on for the following turn. I'm pretty sure Jonathan Bergstrom just wants to get the Dinrova Horror into play and probably clear the way for something good. Joel Larson has only on 4 life now, so this game is going down the wire, and Jonathan Bergstrom needs to win this if he and his team wants to stay in this round. But there is still upper 1 round, so it would just tie it up if he did manage to lose this game.
It's not a Nimbus Swimmer, but it is a Drake Ring Crisis, triggering Ivy Lane Denizen again and providing a blocker for that Balustrade Spy. The question is, can Larson defend and threaten Bergstrom at the same time?
Yeah, puts the counter on the Crisis. Okay, looks like Joel is actually reconsidering the counter, because I would think that putting on the Disciple would actually allow him to swing for 5 here, but actually doesn't, decides against it, but the Bainelli Broker gets used here. The players are playing a little bit more casually here. Still, obviously, it's for the title of Grand Prix champion, but they know each other and they can comfortably play in their own language, which surely an advantage, being to play with much more ease.
I think it's more important that the Disciple is 5/5 because of its toughness, so that it can block a potentially battalioned Navsquad commando. And it just doesn't matter if Drake and Crisis is 3/1 or 4/2, as it would just trade with the Balustrade Spy either way.
Both ways. So yeah, Bainelli Broker being used again, already a sizable amount of cards hidden there and under her. Did Jonathan Bergstrom draw the land? Does seem that way. He does have the Dinrova Horror. Yep, so 6 lands, taps out, Horror. Yep, mill 2 of your cards. Yep,
Probably has to announce a target for the triggered ability of the Horror, which he didn't do yet. So
yep. Joel already went on to mill the 2 cards. Yeah. Well, he bounced the Disciple. There's look that way. Yeah, bounces the disciple of the old ways, which was a 5-5. Yeah, there's discarded land and Simic Charm and Forest being milled here. So now Jonathan Bergstrom can actually think about attacking profitably here.
Yeah, just attacking with the 3 creatures that are able to. He does have a good blocker, and it does trigger Battalion. Even Sage Road Denizen isn't being dominated by any of Larson's creatures, so that's a great attack, forcing Joel to chump block Navsquad Commandos with Greenside Watcher, trade off the Flyers, and then be left with Ivy Lane Denizen and Disciple of the Old Ways, facing off against Din Rover Horror, Navsquad Commando, and Sage Road Denizen, with that Bane Alley Broker still lurking in the background.
Yeah, with loads of good cards hidden there, I'm guessing because Jonathan Bergstrom didn't draw any lands. So it maybe even has some removal spells hidden under there, which he can return once he untaps. So we'll see how that turns out. This attack here with the Commandos, the Denizen, and the Balustrade Spire already pretty sizable. And yeah, he will probably have to block just as you described, because Joe Larson is only on 4 life. And if he loses the game, then the faith of his team is on Elias Watsfeldt.
Yeah, he decides against blocking with the Krasis. However, I don't think that he's really hoping to win there.
Very quickly, this is board state in the other match.
Yeah, board state in the first match, Fredrik Carlsson against Watsfeldt. So 2 extort creatures for Carlson, and then a called Nightwing being put to action here. Grizzly Spectacle on the Boros Reckoner. Wow, that's a big play.
Yeah, we are going to have to move to that very quickly once this game is being decided. We see the Drake Queen Krasis going on the offensive.
Yeah, dropping Bergstrom down to 6. Joe Larson actually deciding to go on the offensive here. Maybe bluff some sort of bounce spell here.
Or did he top deck the Gridlock for the win?
Maybe he did. That would be amazing. So, down to the wire, Joe Larson against Jonathan Bergstrom here.
He hasn't conceded, and he did attack for 4 in the face of just getting killed by the Flyer, but also by basically virtually all the other creatures there. That Bane Alley Broker, pretty scary, because it's almost guaranteed that there is some kind of solution for what Joel is trying to do here, but you have to play for your outs, and if it's Gridlock, it would be absolutely huge.
Yeah, we saw Joel Larson ripping that tower defense and completely blowing out René Kraft in the semifinals here. But now, Jonathan Bergstrom attacks away all his cards. We've held table 8 to us, yeah, so we definitely see how that match ends up. But Jonathan Bergstrom has to win this one for his team to still have a shot at winning round 2 and getting home the title of Grand Prix champion. So what can he do here? He's contemplating tax. Does Joel Larson have the Gridlock?
Everything appears like he does.
5 mana.
It might only be a totally loss, but that would still allow for a lethal attack.
It is
Gridlock.
Oh, wow, Gridlock and instant speed. Does Jonathan Bergstrom maybe have a counter here? Does he have a follow-up to have a blocker? He needs 2.
This is crazy. Larson might take this if the broker doesn't provide anything here. And
Yeah,
it looks like
it was on play on the upkeep. So yeah, Gridlock played on the upkeep there. So still not in Jonathan Bergstrom main beginning of combat phase. So because now actually Jonathan Bergstrom has some sort of removal spell hidden under the Bane Alley Broker. He can block with the Broker, return the card, and kill the other creature. But we know that there's a lot of conditional removal. He also had an Orzo Charm. He really can't afford to play either. Grizzly Spectacle on the Krasis. Milling 4 cards. That's a great play from Jonathan Bergstrom there to keep his team alive. Mills away 3 lands and a Shamble Shark here. Does have the Bane Alley Broker back to block. Again, Joel Larson. Did he top deck a win here? Can he get out of the sticky situation again? You see his whole team looking on. There's the handshake. So Joel Larson loses to Jonathan Bergstrom. Now the round is tied at 1 each. This is the final game. If Fredrik Carlson wins this, if Elias Watsfeldt manages to take the game, then we'll see in round 3. But this looks very much in the favor of Fredrik Carlson here. who does have Urbis Protector and an Angel token, 2/2 flyer in Kingpin's Pet, Syndic of Tides against just a 1/1 called the Nightwing token, but 6 mana from Elias Watsfeldt. 21 to 6.
Yeah.
So Elias Watsfeldt only on 6 life here.
Elias on the ropes. We see the Boris Ragnar in Carlson's graveyard, which Elias, I believe, only milled with Grizzly Spectacle. But is he going to be able to cast his spells to actually mount a defense?
It doesn't seem to. He does seem to have an Alms Beast in his hand. Doesn't have any white mana. So this is like looking like the upset. This will Elias Watsfeldt just add another second place to his resume, as will Joel Larson. Again, the win eluding them by 1 game.
The curse of Watsfeldt and Larson. He's going for a gift of Orzhova on Duskmantle Guildmage, but he is facing 2 extra creatures and a 4/4 Angel token.
Tapping out. Fredrik Carlsson with still cards in his hand. Draws. Does have a Thrall Parasite as well as I think it's a Viscopa Confessor. He could easily out-extort Elias Watsfeldt from this game, and you see already, they're already, moving their shoulders. Fredrik Carlsson calling help from his friend there, just to make sure he doesn't make a mistake here. Carlson just 6 life points away from getting the trophy home and upsetting their countrymen here. What does he have? How can Elias Watsfeldt find a way back into this game? That Duskmantle Guildmage with the Gift of Orzhova proving maybe a bit too much of a problem.
And you don't want to go overboard here. If Watsfeldt is holding something like Rapid Hybridization for the Angel token, attacking with everything would actually mean that the Guildmage gets to ambush one of the Exort creatures, which you don't want to happen. But he's going for the Exort plan, and that's much more difficult for the control deck to answer. So we actually do see a very aggressive attack here. So does Watsfeldt even have Rapid Hybridization, or is he just on the ropes here with only the lifelink to save him?
You see Fredrik Carlsson cheekily flashing. There's the handshake from Elias' teammates. Yvonne banners. Yeah, and there you have it. Unknown Swedish team? Not anymore. They take home the title. Carlson, Westling, and Bergström taking it home. The only player on the team with any result so far was Jonathan Bergstrom with the top 4 in Grand Prix Stuttgart in 2007. All the 3 players now get to add a title to their resume and will represent Sweden together with their friends in San Diego, being able to show, hey, I came from the Team Grand Prix.
Great
I'm
job.
pretty good.
Congratulations to Carlson, Wesling, and Bergström, defeating Watsfeldt, Magnuson, Larson. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times.
The only losses in this tournament that they got was from their countrymen that you can see here with the Grand Prix trophy. I don't know which one's going to take it home, but all 3 players, that's a great shot for our coverage team. Make sure to check it out on Daily MTG. There's certainly great stories, and the winning photo here, they look really happy about themselves. Carrying the team. I think Fredrik Carlsson was playing so solidly throughout the weekend. I was really impressed by his play. Congratulations to all the players. And unfortunately enough, Joel Larson, Elias Watsfeldt, yet another 2nd place. Wow, that's amazing.
They will have to continue to fight for that title, but I'm sure they have the motivation and the skills to do so.
Yeah. Even with the finals appearance, they gain a few pro points to add to their resume, so they're nearing the levels. Joel aiming for platinum, Elias still around hovering around gold, does need a good finish at the Pro Tour, and San Diego in 2 months' time. So definitely something to work on there, and they have to make the Pro Tour count, because they're not happy about this 2nd place finish, I can tell you, but happy overall after the 10-0 on day 1, getting to the finals. So great performance by them.
An incredible accomplishment. Hats off to them as well. We saw great magic all around, and the team draft portion actually showing us how important it is to not be caught on the wrong foot or in the wrong matchup. And like you said, it's important that your team has a pillar of consistency. You also need the players to evaluate all the situations correctly, when to go for it, when to hold back. Amazing magic.
Yeah, and great plays all around. My favorite moment of this weekend definitely coming in the semis, when the tower defense totally blew out René Kraft and his Boros deck, and Joel Larson just absolutely dominating there. So yeah, and will we get an interview, Rich? No interview. All right. So we're going to wrap this up. So if you want to check out more of this weekend, the text coverage over on Daily MTG is full of interesting pieces by Toby Henke and Tim Willoughby. Additionally, we'll also have one more GP actually running this very moment. So once this stream finishes, you can head on over to the Grand Prix San Diego coverage on GG's Live, where they're playing Modern, my favorite format, and there seems to be a lot of really good decks going on there. But yeah, for me, Matej Bixizalka, here with Simon Gertzen, Rich Hagan, and Stephen Leeming, saying goodbye and see you in Strasbourg next month.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.